Hello! So today we're going to be looking at writing equations in slope-intercept form. We may remember from previous lessons that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, and we might now know why it's called slope-intercept form, because we know that the slope is actually the same thing as the French word mentor, which we abbreviate as m, and that's where we get our m from. That's why it's called slope. But why is it called intercept? We also learned in previous lessons that the b is the y-intercept. It's when x equals 0 that the y equals b. So that's why it's called intercept, is because of the b. It's called slope because of the m. So if we were given a problem or a question like this where it says the slope equals -3 and the y-intercept, another word for the y-intercept again is the b. We could have said the b equals half. It would have been the same question. Can I write this in the slope-intercept form, given these two things? It would be really simple to do. Y equals mx plus b. The y is still the y. That doesn't change. The equal doesn't change. The m is just the slope by definition. It's just the slope. So it tells you here what the slope is. It's a -3. The x is a x, and the b, in this case, slope intercept is half. So it's positive, we'll write plus half. And that's the answer. Pretty easy. Some may want to write the slope as a rise over run, because the slope is not only a slope called m, the slope is also called rise over run. So if that's the case, that -3 could also have been written as a -3 over 1. So that's also correct. Easy. So this one, let's try this one. The slope is 0 and the y-intercept is -4. So we'll write y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form, just to remind us. It doesn't say the y is anything, we just leave it as a y. The m is slope, we substitute it for the slope, so it's 0. If it's 0, I don't need to write, well, here, let's write the 0. Never mind. So multiplying. The x is the x. The b is a -4. So instead of a b, I'll write a -4. Okay, we just do the order of operations. 0 times x is 0. Disappears. So y equals -4. All right, I want you to try one. See how you do. Let's say the slope is a -3 over 5, and the y-intercept is 20. See if you can solve that. All right. Now what about looking at it from a graph? What's cool about a graph is you can choose any points on the graph. And since you can choose any points on the graph, you can choose the x being 0, right? Oh, this doesn't look quite right. Actually, this is not right. x0 and y -3 would be down here. 1, 2, 3. Fix that right now. Sorry, correction. There we go. There. It's not right. So if x is 0 and y is -3, if you could choose any point, it's smart to choose x being 0 as one of your points. And the reason that's the case is when we talked about intercepts earlier in the year, intercepts we said equals 0 because it's where it intersects on the y-axis and where the line would intercept on the x-axis. So if you can choose any 2 points on this line, it's wise to choose one of those points with the x being 0. And the reason why is that is the same thing as the b, which is the same thing as the y-intercept. Okay? So it's smart to choose this point on the line. So let's go ahead and find the slope first of all. Okay? If we find the slope, that's the m. If we find the m, and we chose 0 for x, we'll automatically have the b. And once we have the m and the b, it turns into the problems we just worked out, where we had the m and the b. We can write it into the slope-intercept equation. So let's do this really fast. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, so remember that the definition of slope, though, is not just m. It's not just rise over run, but it's also y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 equals m. So that's the definition of slope. So we can choose any 2 points. In this case, I chose 4 and 3, and I chose 0 and negative 3. So let's just work it out. y2, which one is the y2? Well, it doesn't really matter which one of these y's you choose as y2. Here's what does matter. X goes first, and then y. It's an ordered pair. It goes in alphabetical order. X goes first, and then y. So I can either make this be my y2 or this. I'll make this be my y2. So negative 3 y2 minus y1. If this is my y sub 2, this has to be my y1. So negative 3 minus 3. Notice that the y's go on top. Because remember, it's rise over run. The x's go on bottom. If this is my y2, this can't be my x2. My x2 has to be next to my y2. Just like my x1 has to be next to my y1. So y2 minus y1, x2 is 0 minus x1. A negative 3 minus a negative 3 would be a negative 6. 0 minus 4 would be a negative 4. And then since they're both divisible by 2, the greatest common factor is 2, it'd be simplified to a 3 over 2, and that's my m. M equals 3 over 2. Well, what's my b? Well, we already said if x is 0, then we know the b, which is negative 3. So now we just have to write it. Y equals 3 over 2x minus 3. Okay, I did a lot of explanation and took a problem that could be done very quickly and took my time explaining it, but we could do these much quicker. So, let's do another one. Okay, again, if I can choose any points on this line, I'm going to choose one where x is 0, and the reason I'm going to do that is it automatically tells me what the b is. In this case, the b will be 2. So when I write my answer to y equals mx plus b, I know what the b is. The b is 2 because x is 0. It's the y-intercept. Okay, so now we have to find the m. In order to find the m, we use our definition of slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I will choose this to be my x1 this time, this to be my y1, this could be my x2, this could be my y2. Let's do it. So y2, 2, minus y1 will be negative 1, over x2, which is 0, minus x1. A negative next to a negative is a positive, right? So 2 plus 1 is 3. 0 minus 4 is still a negative 4. That's your m. M equals 3 over 4, but it's negative. Now we just have to write it. We know the b, we know the m, so we just write it. Y equals m x. The b is a 2, so plus 2. This is the equation of this line. And we could check it if we wanted to. If we were going backwards and graphing this, we would start at 2. So 1, 2. And then we'd do rise over run. But since it's negative, we would go down. So we go down 3. 1, 2, 3. And we would run 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'd put our dot, and then we would have a line. We could do it again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's still on the line. So we could check it to make sure that we are correct. Great. Okay, we're just progressing in thought. So first we found the m and the b, and then we graphed it, and we wrote it into y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form. Then we just looked at a line, and from that line we were able to write y equals mx plus b. Now can we do it without a line? Can we do it just with the points? Sure. It's the same steps. It's just the definition of slope. That's all you have to do. y2, which one of these will we make y2 this time? Let's just, here, we'll make this be x1, y1, x2, y2. It'll work it out. y2 minus, don't forget the minus sign, y1 over x2 minus x1 equals. That would be a negative 6 over 3. But we can simplify it again because the greatest common factor is 3. We can divide them both by 3, so it would be a negative 2 over 1. So that's your m. So we just write it. Y equals m is a negative 2 over 1, x. And the b, when x is 0, the b would be negative 1. There you go. Okay. Here, let's do this one real quick. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So it would be, again, the formula. You should write this down. If you think you already have it, you should still write it down. So y2 would be negative 5 minus negative 5. So negative 5 minus, there's always a minus in between, another negative 5, over 8 minus nothing. A negative and a negative make it positive, so it would be, 0. 8 minus nothing would be 8. We have a 0 in the numerator. Now, we talked about this a long time ago. What do we do when we have a 0 in the numerator? It appears when there's a 0 that there is no slope at all, right? If we were to graph that, there'd be no slope. So, very tricky, very tricky. But we know the b, so let's just write it out, and we can prove this. Y equals, the m is 0, x plus, we know the b would be a negative 5. Y equals 0 times anything is 0, so y equals negative 5. We would graph that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would just be a straight line through. Oh, can't see what I'm doing, sorry. Okay. Very good. Let's do this last one here. So the last progression is, what if instead of an x and y, what if instead of what we just did, which is I'm given an x, a y, an x and y, I'm given an f of x, right? And then the answer. What do I do then? Well, remember that f of x is really the same thing as a y. It's just that you can see the input, okay? So, and the input would be the x. So this number here is really just the x. And this number here, what the f of x equals, the output, is really just the y. So if you see something like this, it's really just doing this. It's really doing what we just did before. It's just in a different, it's in function notation. It's in a different notation. So if we had 0, 10, and then we had 6, and 34. Again, we do x and y. It goes in alphabetical order. And then we just do it again. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, it'd be a 24 over 6. It would be 4. If you want to rise over run, you put 4 over 1. We have our m. Now we need to find our b, but if x is 0, we know the b is 10. So the answer would be y equals 4 over 1x plus 10. Great. Okay, let me have you try it. If I do f of 0 equals 3, and I do f of 4 equals 12. See if you can find the answer to it. One last thing now. I'm going to make a mistake to see if you can catch it as a review. See if you can catch my mistake. F of 0 equals 5. F of 3 equals 9. Let's see if you can catch my mistake. So if 0 is my input, 5 is my output. If 3 is my input, 9 is my output. So this is x1, y2, x2, y1. Oh, there's the mistake. I've already made it. If this is an x1, this has to be a y1. If this is an x2, what's next to it has to be x2. Okay, so I'll make one more mistake and I'll stop. So it goes y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What's my mistake? The y's go on the top. I put the y's on the bottom. The right answer should be, the right setup should be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Then you find your m. Okay, well, we might as well finish this one. So if the m is 4 over 3, the answer would be y equals 4 over 3x. And then if x is 0, y is 5 plus 5. All right. Hopefully this is helpful.